Good morning, Joe. How are you doing today?
Very good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that you have this podcast, Financial Heresy. And the reason why is because we are in this age now where we're sitting in cars for a long period of time again. We're sitting in our offices, but we don't have that financial leadership that we want. We've got to have somebody who understands and really gets us on track of what the economics are in this country.
Yes, thank you. And I agree with that because the reason why our country and our world is in this situation is because of a widespread lack of financial literacy. And so the more of us can understand about the way the economy actually works, the better we'll be able to navigate through it, and the stronger every individual will be. And the more we move that direction, the better off the entire system will be as well.
So many people want that instant wealth, and they think that, okay, well, if I'm going to sit here and swap out stock and stuff like that left and right, isn't it about letting it grow and having its place?
Exactly. Yes, we've all heard all the stories about the lottery winners and the professional athletes who just a few years after their windfall are bankrupt. So it is not about the quick cash. It's about financial literacy and doing the right things with it. And that's actually where the problem comes in because most people don't know the right thing to do with it. It used to be 100 years ago, our grandparents could just go to work, keep their head down, save, and they'd be able to retire on that. And today, we kind of have to understand the way the system works. Otherwise, you're going to be doing the wrong things with your money. You're going to wake up and realize, man, this roast beef costs 10 times as much as it did 10 years ago. And I'm going to have to go back to work now.
Do you think there really is a supply chain problem, or is this all supply and demand because it gives us an opportunity to raise those prices?
Oh, that's a great question because it raises the question of the chicken or the egg, the what came first. So there are 100% supply chain issues going on.
Okay.
That is not the source of. The source of this is really decades of central banks making money artificially easy, governments having more spending power than they would have otherwise, being able to fund legislation and regulations and push agendas that are not economically smart and that would not happen in a free market without that intervention. And the result of this is a fragile economy that's starting to collapse before our eyes. And so supply chains breaking down and deglobalization, this is just a symptom of the root cause.
You really bring up something here that a lot of listeners have probably never heard of before, or maybe they have in their own way. Taxation theft. You put focus on that.
100%. And so very, very basically, you got a room, you've got two wolves, and you've got a sheep, and everybody votes on what to have for dinner. What do you think is going to happen? So in whether you have that with just three people or whether you have 300 million people, the dynamics are still the same. When you have number one, no choice, you are a part of the system whether you decide to be or not. And then number two, you have no choice over how much of your money gets taken from you. And then number three, where that money gets spent. Yep. By all definitions, that is theft. Now, some people say, well, that's still for the greater good and we should still do it. And that's fine. That's a different discussion. But it's important for people to recognize the money's coming out of your paycheck no matter what. You try to leave, it's still coming out of your paycheck. You try to expatriate, it's still going to come out as your exit tax. And no matter what, you don't decide how much money gets taken away from you. No matter what, you don't decide where it goes. And so if somebody came into your house, took your stuff, and decided to give it to their buddy, you'd call that theft. Same thing is going on with your W-2 pay stubs.
Yep, yep. You got to settle this argument that I've had with my wife for several years, and it is that she believes that we should be paying off this house and getting rid of those payments. I see having those payments as being a long line of credit. What is your view on that as a financial advisor?
Well, it definitely depends on a few factors. Number one, is it an adjustable rate mortgage or not? Is the debt adjustable rate? If so, it's very dangerous right now. Number two, it depends on the interest rate. If the interest rate is below the rate of inflation, then technically what you've done is you've spent money, you borrowed from somebody else, and then you're giving back money as you pay it back with dollars that are worth less than the ones you borrowed.
See, I love that, the way you just put that, because you have just done a 3-part series on on money's history, the evolution, and the future. I mean, you are thinking about all 3 of those levels, and you cover that so well on this podcast.
Thank you. Yes, I really think it's important to understand the history, because if you want to know where we are, you have to understand where we came from. And so having paper money is a very new thing historically. For thousands of years, money was commodities. Money was gold coins, silver coins. Then there was a transition where we put it in the banks and got paper instead, but at least the paper was backed up by something of physical value. And then 50 years ago, there was another switch, and now we've been on virtual money, paper money, fiat. It's by declaration for the last 50 years, and now we're seeing the signs that's coming to the end. So the question is, what comes next?
Yeah, the Bitcoin is one of those things where people are either on it or they're off it. And the thing that scares me is this stuff that I keep hearing about with metaverse money. And it's like, oh my God, where's the reality here?
Yes, absolutely. So you're going to have pockets like that pop up always from time to time. It's very similar to just video game money, or it's also very similar to gift cards. Gift cards have been a thing for a long time. They're not going to be replacing the global reserve currency anytime soon. Your Starbucks gift card will stay at Starbucks, and that's about it. Something like Bitcoin, we are seeing major moves. We're seeing countries like El Salvador saying, "Hey, this is the next. This is our reserve currency. This is our legal currency here." But we're also seeing other things take place where countries like the BRICS countries, like Brazil and Russia and India and South Africa and China, are saying, "Hey, we need a currency that's backed by gold and oil." And so we're seeing some competing systems start to pop up around the world.
Is it ever too late to jump into the money game? Because I know I've got listeners that are 50 plus and they haven't thought ever about investing.
It is never too late to jump into the money game, because a lot of people will always look back and say, man, if I would have just done this 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. But having that attitude is the same exact attitude that you had 5, 10, 15 years ago. And so it's in the past. You are unable to do anything about it. The only thing that we can do is control what we do in the future. And the fact that you have hindsight means that you have a better perspective going forward. And that's what it's all about, understanding history to better understand what's coming in the future. And so you've got 10 years left, 20 years left, 30 years left. If you're just thinking about the people who you're going to care for after you're gone, it's still never too late. The responsibility is on us to make sure that we do best for those who are relying on it.
Well, congratulations on this podcast. I look forward to talking to you more and more in the future, sir, as you continue to grow this investment.